All right, guys, welcome and let's learn how to write an offer for a residential for the residential purchase agreement for not for primary residences or basically for properties under 4 units. So first things first, I want you to go to Google Drive, type in writing offers to be accepted. This should be available to anyone with a Keller Williams Gmail account. So first thing, here are going to be all the items that we need to write the offer. So I'm going to want a comparative market analysis. This is to determine the fair market value to make sure that we're offering a fair amount. The MLS printout, I want the agent view as well as the client view. Agent view is to see what the cooperating broker is offering in commission and what information is provided by the listing agent. I want to do the estimated buyer cost. This is going to be from one of your lawyer title apps. Lawyer's Title is one of them, but any one of your title apps should have a feature on there to do some calculations. And you do the buyer estimated cost one. From there, we definitely need a pre-approval from the lender. We should have that before we even show houses. But make sure that the pre-approval letter is modified to match the offer amount. We want to make it so they believe that we are only able to purchase for the amount that we've shown. Sometimes if you make it so, the purchase, the loan, the pre-approval letter says that it's up to 600, but we're purchasing at 575. They'll basically say that, they can go up in their price, so they'll counter us back at a higher price. After that, proof of funds. This is going to be a bank account summary with the account info blacked out. You can use the screenshot on your phone. Make sure that there's names provided in there. After that, the first thing that we want to do before we even start writing the offer is go and ask questions, first and foremost to the listing agent. So first we would do, how many offers do you have in hand? Are you representing any of those offers? Are any of those offers all cash? How close are they to the asking price? Now, they don't have to answer any of these questions. And I want to at least ask them, because if the more information that I have, the better. How close are they to the asking price? How many agents said they were going to write an offer? When will you be reviewing offers? What are your clients hoping to get for the property as far as price goes? Why is your client moving? Where are they moving to? When do they need to be at their destination? What if they need a 60-day rent back after close? We want to make sure that we have all this stuff in place so we can write it into the offer and write a strong one. Next, how long do your clients need the escrow to be? And then we want to see if we can use some of our title people and escrow people. So is it all right if we choose escrow and title? Typically, they're going to say no, it's seller to select all services. In that case, go ahead and, if you look at the bottom of this page down here, they're going to say just write seller to select, but you tell them, hey, I want to write a strong offer. Who do you use? So make sure you're getting that information. We write it directly in there, so then they don't have to counter us to specify just who is going to be our service providers. There's more questions that you can ask. This is just a couple of them. I like to ask at least 2 ways of how close are they to the asking price. What are your clients hoping to net off the property, get for the property? And then if I pull up the right information, I should be able to reverse engineer what we need to come up with for the price. You can also say, where do we need to be to win? Like, where do we need to come in at for as far as price goes to win this listing, to win this home? So ask them 3 different ways on how, where the price is at. Next, we want to talk to the lender to make sure we have some info. So first, is my client pre-approved or are they pre-qualified? And we need to make sure that we know the difference. After that, have they gone through direct underwriting or table underwriting? Basically, they can do the underwriting process prior to having a purchase contract consummated. And sometimes you can have a loan that is already completely underwritten. Therefore, it can be written as a cash offer almost, with no loan contingency. I wouldn't do that because that's not protecting your client. But if it's a competitive situation, that may be of benefit to you. Next, I want to ask, are there contingencies to their loan? Do they need to close on their current home in order to close on this loan? Are there any other immediate red flags on their file, like any credit issues, student loans? Did they recently open up a credit card? What's going on? I want to make sure that if we're going to enter escrow, we're not wasting everyone's time. Next is how quickly can you have the appraisal report by? And the reason I'm asking this is, and I'll show you exactly where it's at. I believe it's paragraph 3J on page 2 of the residential purchase agreement. I want to lower my appraisal report, appraisal contingency period, so I can write a competitive offer if it's a competitive situation. I also want to see what their average close of escrow is. Like, can they do a 21-day close? Can they do a 17-day close? How competitive, how quickly can we close, and how can I write the offer as such? And I'm blatant too. I want to lower my loan contingency period, at least to 17 days, so we can remove all contingencies on day 17. What time frame are you comfortable with for me lowering that contingency period? Next, and this is for paragraph 3D of the RPA, 3D1. What is their max interest rate for purchasing? This is important because if we write in their max interest rate and rates jump above that before they lock, they have the opportunity to back out because it's an extra clause of protection for them. Last is a couple questions for your client. How much are you putting down for your down payment? Now, you should have this from the lender, but it's a good idea to make sure with your client. But yeah, double check both sources. Do talk to the lender about that. How much would you like to put down for your initial deposit? Advise them to put no more than 3% of the purchase price. This is a good faith exercise that will be used to remedy any liquidated damages should the buyer default, should the buyer not be able to proceed with their with buying the home after they've removed contingencies. So if something were to happen, this is the amount of money that goes to the seller as compensation for the time they've wasted. So it's anywhere between $0 to 3% of the purchase price, and all of the explanation of this is on page 8 of the RPA under the remedy for the liquidated damages. I believe it's paragraph 27 or 28. So yeah. After that, what additional property like appliances would you like to write into the offer? After that, would you like your offer to expire? So as far as sometimes we need to make the offer expire if your client's writing multiple offers at the same time. Sometimes we want to make it so it's, hey, this offer is only on the table until tonight by midnight because you guys are trying to go on the market tomorrow and we don't want to deal with competition. Therefore, this is where we're stuck. Yeah, so there's other reasons that you might want to write your offer to expire, but go ahead and check with your coach before you write in an expiration. So another thing too is when we might want to take possession of the property. This is a negotiation point for your clients. So I believe it's on paragraph 9 of the RPA. You'll go ahead and see where the buyer is going to take possession of the property. Typically, it's on the day of the close of escrow at 6 p.m. unless otherwise specified. After that, this is to be done prior to writing an offer. So your agent visual inspection disclosure. I'm not going to go over the whole AVID in here. This is just one of the biggest errors that agents make when they're submitting offers is they do this after the opening of escrow. The purpose of doing this before escrow is to ensure that, hey, we get the property in the condition at the time we made the offer, versus let's say they throw a party the night that they receive your offer because they're so excited. They damage a bunch of the property. There's a bunch of items that are damaged, walls, holes, things like that. And then we go in after and they're like, well, what the heck happened? So this is to show what the property's condition was at the time of the offer. I put in here search, just kind of know what the market's saying about and how to do CMAs. So you guys can go ahead and read this in there. Estimated buyer cost, get with your title representative to set up with their app and access the buyer and seller net sheets. So I'll go ahead and put this disclaimer in here. This is not a legal guide to the RPA. You got to read this and be able to explain it to your clients in its entirety. Our job is quite important and we're dealing with a lot of money for these clients. So make sure that you understand the implications of everything that's going on. But this is going to be how to write the offer. All right. First and foremost, let's go ahead and create a new transaction. We're going to do a new purchase or offer. I'm going to go ahead and I want to do the property name, not my buyer's name. So let's go with (1404) Frankfurt Street. I want to do MLS Connect first and foremost. SDSPN is going to be our MLS. And I have to go ahead and look up the MLS number for the property. I'm going to go off this old listing here, 1404 Frankfurt Street, mainly because I know the listing agent. So let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste the MLS number. I want to post the ID in there, include a property photo, and hit find. Comes up with all the information that is going to be auto-populated into the cover sheet. It'll be auto-populated everywhere in the transaction. This is a residential property. It is an active status. Sometimes we could say it's a prospect. So then once it enters escrow, that it'll be active. But I have a good feeling about it, so I'm going to keep it inactive to start. Select template. This is important. We want to do this is not a condominium, so I want to make sure I'm doing the single family purchase agreement. Save. All right, perfect. So we are in here, and first things first, we want to go to documents. All right. So you have already uploaded your pre-approval letter, estimated buyer cost, CMA, as well as the, doesn't look like we have a placeholder for it anymore, but the MLS printout, and any other documents that we're going to need. We'll go ahead and start by going to the cover sheet. I want to fill the cover sheet out with my buyer's information and at least the email address. I want to check this box because it'll put an X wherever they need to sign. All right. Now, there's a couple different takes on putting the seller's information in there. It really all depends. Now, I know for this one, if I go over here to the tax report, I can scroll down and see the owner's name. So Robert R. Takens Jr. is my dad, and Mary Shaver. So they own the property, and I can go ahead and write their names into the contract. So some people they won't do it. They'll say I'll just leave that for my my sellers. Now it'll put the green box next to the buyers. It'll put the red box next to the sellers. I already have all the information that I need for the MLS from the MLS. It already auto-populated the selling agent's information. So now I just need to put in mine. There we go. That's all we need to put in. Some people will put in the extra stuff as far as disclosure and home warranty. I'm going to put that in the RPA. So I hit back. Back will automatically save it. Some people prefer to save, then hit back. To each their own. After that, let's go ahead and go to the residential purchase agreement. This is the offer packet. There's several other documents in here, starting with the agency disclosure for the first 2 pages. Third page is going to be the representation of more than one buyer seller, disclosure and consent, the PRBS. Then you have the wire fraud advisory, and then it goes to the RPA. So actually, page 5 of this document set to start is going to be the first page of the RPA. Okay, so let's start with date prepared. Offer, there we go. The dollar amount that we are going to give them, let's say that I did my CMA, and although their offer price is 1.3 million, I believe that it is only worth 1.2. I'm going to go ahead and type in that number amount, and then it will end up coming, it'll just auto-populate up here. Now, you can either have the escrow occurring on a specific date and time. So if I wanted it to close not on a Friday or something like that, or not leave, leave this to closing on a certain time frame, like let's say I were to say 30 days. Well, what if the 30th day were to close on a Saturday? Then I have to do either Friday or Monday, and we have to figure that out and negotiate it. Well, instead, I can just click on a certain day. So let's say I want to close on May 16th, a little bit over 30 days. Or instead, I can go ahead and do the typical, which most agents do, is 30 days. But this is just whatever the lender is okay with, whatever your buyer is okay with, whatever the seller is okay with. We just need to negotiate that with all parties. From there, the seller brokerage and the buyer brokerage firm. The seller is only representing the seller, so I want to make sure that I check off those boxes. Buyer brokerage firm, I'm only checking off these. Okay. Next, I want to give, let's say for this one, my buyer is only comfortable with 1% of the listing amount, $12,000. This is where we put in the earnest money deposit at paragraph 3A1. Okay. From there, with the earnest money deposit, by default, the residential purchase agreement states that it's going to be by electronic fund transfer, so electric wire. But let's just put it this way for a little bit of extra, my buyer hasn't really decided what they want to do with it, even if they have. Buyer's choice. That way I'm allowed to deliver it by hand via just personal check, cashier's check. I can do the electronic wire, whatever you want. After that, do not do an increased deposit. If the offer is all cash, we can go ahead and click this and it'll automatically just let all this off. And we can type in the offer amount minus subtracting the rest here for the initial deposit. So it would be 1.988. Which equals my 1.2, and making the balance 800,000. Oh, I gave the wrong amount. 1.1. That'll work a little bit better. There we go. So there shouldn't be any balance of the down payment or the purchase price. So that would be for an all cash offer. We don't have an all cash. We're going to be conventional financing. So being that it is a conventional finance loan, I'm not going to check the boxes for FHA, VA, or seller financing. We're going to go ahead and say, it's not assumed financing either, but this loan shall be at a fixed rate not to exceed. And this is where I'm going to put in where my buyer's maximum interest rate is that I got this information from the lender. So right there is where we're going to drop that. There we go. Or if it's an adjustable rate mortgage, we can go ahead and click that and do the maximum amount of that adjustable rate mortgage. Okay, cool. Now let's say that they're putting a 20% down payment in for this one. So now I have to calculate, if they're doing a 20% down payment, that means this loan amount is going to be 80% of the purchase price. So I'll pull out my calculator. I'll do 1.2 million times 0.8. And right there, I get to put in $960,000 for the first loan. Now, I want to make sure that I'm double checking my math. So what I'll do is, it should be that 3F, the balance of the down payment, and 3A equal whatever the down payment is. So that should be 20% of the purchase price. So I go 1.2 million times 0.2 is 240,000. 240,000 minus 228 should equal 12,000. So my math does check out, and I'm good to proceed with other things in regards to financing terms. So then I'm going to come in and say that, let's say that we have our verification or proof of funds. If we have the proof of funds, I'm going to go ahead and check the box for verification attached. So if I don't have the proof of funds, per the contract, I have to provide the proof of funds to the seller 3 days after acceptance. Okay, so there you go. Make sure that you're checking this verification attached. And we should already have the buyer's proof of funds. After that, 3I, the appraisal contingency and removal. So let's say that the loan officer states that they're comfortable lowering the appraisal contingency to 14 days. Well, this is where I would do it. Okay. Make sure you check with the lender before you do this. Next, loan application. Typically, we want to have our loan approval attached, or pre-qualification attached. So we'll put the letter attached box checked. If you don't have it, once again, you have to have it within 3 days. But typically, you're not going to get a seller who is going to accept a loan without at least the proof that they can, come up with a down payment, and then proof that they can actually, complete the loan. From there, we go down to 3J3. This is the loan contingency removal. You ask your lender how low that they could write it. They were comfortable with 17 days. We can write it there. Or let's say they said 10, whatever, it doesn't matter. Or let's say we're in a really competitive situation, and the loan has a, DU pre-approval, meaning that it's directly underwritten. You can check this box off for no loan contingency. Now, before you do that, check with your lender, check with your buyer. Make sure you understand the implications of doing that. If the buyer does default because of a financial, because of the loan, and they back out because of the loan, well, they remove the contingency with the offer. Therefore, they're putting this $12,000 at risk of being taken by the seller, at least going to mediation to fight over it. Okay, so protect your buyer at all times. After that, paragraph 4, the sale of the buyer's property. So this agreement and the buyer's ability to obtain financing is not contingent unless we check this box. If we check this box, it's going to attach the form for the COP, contingency for sale of buyer's property. If it attaches that form, we fill it out, and then it basically states that the property is either on the market, in escrow, or not listed, but it needs to be sold in order to proceed with purchasing this completing this contract. After that, so let's say that you're writing a backup offer. The offer is already there. The property already has an accepted offer. You can go ahead and check up the backup offer addendum. It will automatically add it. If the property is on septic, well, or anything else, property monument addendum, we go ahead and check that guy. If it's in a short sale, we need to check this guy right here for the short sale addendum. If the property is subject to court confirmation, then we need to check this guy here. That could be for a probate property. Once again, if it isn't a probate, then we need to click on the probate advisory. The property is in a trust, the trust advisory. If it's a short sale, same thing. We already are going to send these guys with the offer. But how do you find out if the property is in a trust or a probate? Typically, it's going to tell you for the probate in the MLS under this restrictions. If there are any restrictions on the sale for the probate, there will be either court approval at that point, it'll state, or it'll state probate. If it is in a short sale, you can just go right up here under short sale and it'll say no. Yeah, after that, a lot of times as well, you can see if it'll be cash, conventional, FHA, or VA right here for the terms. So sometimes it'll have something in there for the comments. Oh yeah, but the best way to find out if the property's in a trust is going to the tax report. So we click on this guy. Once we get into here, you'll scroll down, and where the property, where it says name, it will say trust. And where the owner vesting rights, I believe it also says trust. So that's how you determine if it is in a trust and if we're going to need to add the trust advisory. After that, here is the boilerplate how we filled this out. So first, 7A, let's explain this. 7A is the allocation of costs. This is where we basically figure out who's paying for what in the escrow. It goes over escrow, title, other costs as far as the county and city transfer tax fees, any HOA document preparation fees, the home warranty, and a couple other things in between, like the government requirements and retrofit standards. Who is going to be paying for what? So the ones that we start out with is number one, for the natural hazard disclosure. It's basically the seller's responsibility typically for that to be paid. They typically run less than $100. My NHD is like I think $98 or $74, depends on if you're getting the environmental report in with it. I normally do disclosure source, but choose whoever you'd like. After that, I want to go ahead and check seller for the next one. If your buyer chooses to have a termite report done on the property, especially for a standalone single-family structure, I would highly suggest it. Go ahead and do termite report, and it's going to be prepared by a licensed professional. Okay. Next, we're going to go ahead and check the box for buyer. We want the buyer to pay for a home inspection. Prepared by a licensed professional. Now, some people will put this in or they won't put it in. We can always put this in with the buyer inspection elections. Basically a document stating which inspections that my client requires to be done. After that, government retrofit requirement and retrofit, typically it's going to be seller, seller, seller. Basically with this, with doing all the seller on this, they're paying for the carbon monoxide and smoke alarm installation, as well as the water heater bracing before the close of escrow. We also have with this guy the mandatory government inspections reports as required by the condition of closing, as well as the minimum government retrofit standards. This right here is going to be in regards to the earthquake stuff with the property, making sure the foundation's set up for that and the property strapped to the foundation. And as well with our new requirements with water conservation fixtures, this is going to be encompassed in that. So next, I'm going to go ahead and check the box for title and escrow. I'm going to do buyer and seller because both parties are going to be paying their own fees. And I'll type just that. So when I do this, I want to be as specific as possible. As you can see, people before me is each their own. They've done 50-50, which 50-50, that means we're splitting it half and half. What if the seller's escrow fees are more than the buyer's? At that point, I don't want my buyer paying more money because I just wrote 50-50 and was too lazy to type this out. So as it should be, each party should be paying their own fee. So I'll go ahead and type that in to its entirety, not by any abbreviation. After that, I'm going to specify who the escrow holder shall be. Now, I'm either going to write in our very own A+ escrow. If they gave me the information, let's say they use Chicago title and escrow, it would be best to put the escrow officer's name. So let's say Foundation Escrow, because I know that's where Brooke Kane's at. Okay. So I want to put the title officer's name in there as well. From there, the seller typically pays for title insurance. So I'm going to check the box for 7C2A as seller, and I'll say that for 7C2B, the owner's title policy is to be issued by, and whether or not I ask the lender or whether I ask the lender or I, figure out with, I just write my own person or I put seller to select. Best practice is type in who they say. So I'll say, lawyer's title. Now, typically, I don't need to put in my title officer's name. More than anything, I want to find out who the escrow officer is, the title officer is, not the title representative. Our title reps are the account managers, but they don't do the actual title work. So it is okay to put Ryan White in there, but it's better to just leave it as lawyer's title. After that, other costs typically paid for by the seller. So I'm going to do 7D1 for seller for the county transfer tax. I'm going to do 7C2 or 7D2 for the city transfer tax. If the property is an HOA, I'll do both 3 and 5 for seller as well. This property does not have an HOA though. For the last one, this is for any private transfer fee. So let's say that there just so happen to be an agreement between a neighbor that there's going to be a fee if the properties were transferred. I'm going to go ahead and type in or check the box for seller here and type in if applicable. Okay. After that, we want to go ahead and go to I would like to ask for the seller to pay for the home warranty. Now, if you read this carefully, it says the seller shall pay for the cost not to exceed however much you put in there. So let's say I do 590, and I know who I want to use. I want Old Republic Home Protection, Crest Insurance, so it's an extra level of insurance, which this actually goes with. That goes with our E&O provider, so the deductible is decreased. It's cut in half actually if we are to use any Crest companies. So whenever you see Crest, you should use them. But I know for a fact with this home warranty that it's $590, and here's how. Old Republic Home Warranty, I want their brochure for California. I'm typically looking for View a current brochure. California. And I want the 13-month crest. It's going to be, all the information's in there, but the last page is going to have the breakdown. And this is going to be on most of the other home warranty companies as well. They'll have the breakdown on the last page. So for a single family home with the platinum production or platinum care, and actually I think I want to do with the washer, dryer, refrigerator, so I'll add the $10 in there. So I'm going to go ahead and do $600. This is an upgraded plan. It's the Old Republic Home Warranty Home Protection Crest. And let's see which plan I chose again. This is the Ultimate Protection. And I want to add in washer, dryer, and the kitchen refrigerator. I don't know what just happened, but washer, dryer, kitchen refrigerator. Now, here's where I'm going to include any items that are included in the sale. So I want this, they're offering all appliances in this one. So I want the refrigerator, I want the stove, I want the washer and dryer. I can find that out on the MLS or by contacting the agent. It should be down under equipment. So they got the dishwasher, garage door opener, microwave, 6-burner stove, gas cooking. Now, it's best to be as specific as possible. I'm going to literally copy and paste this directly into everything. I've already said, I haven't said the dishwasher, microwave, 6-burner stove, gas cooking. Now, it may go over to a text overflow addendum, but I still want to specify this. If all the appliances in the property are stainless steel, as you can see, I want to specify that in my offer, because what happens if the sellers decide that they want to switch out all of the nice stainless steel appliances for old, crappy items bought on Craigslist? So I'm literally going to say, now that's not going to fit here, so it's probably going to go to a text overflow addendum. After that, items excluded from sale. Now, we need to be careful about this too. Leased or liened items. We need to specify and make sure that if there is solar on the property, that it's not leased or liened, and then from there we can address that guy. Items excluded from the sale. All personal property to be removed prior to buyer taking possession. Okay. from their closing and possession. So the buyer intends to or does not intend to, let's say this is not a primary residence, it's a vacation home or an investment home, I need to check this box in that case. Otherwise, as you can see, seller occupied or vacant property possession shall be delivered to buyer at 6 p.m. on the date of close of escrow. Okay, so that's how it is unless you otherwise specify. Now next, the seller can remain in possession of the property after the close of escrow. In order for them to do that, we need to have an agreement. Either it's a form of a lease agreement. Now, depending on how long the seller's in the property, if it's less than 30 days, we need a certain form called the seller in possession, the SIP. If they're going to be in for longer than 30 days, even if it's just 31 days, we need to have the residential lease after sale, which is a little bit more of creating the agency and the tenant landlord relationship between your client and the seller who is now going to be a tenant. After that, you can go ahead and specify if it is tenant occupied, if the property is to be vacant 5 days prior to the close of escrow, so you can go in and make any assessments. After that, we want to go down to page 6. Yes, 6 on paragraph 14. This is where we specify how long the seller has after acceptance to deliver all of the reports and disclosures. So let's say I want to shorten my escrow. I would shorten this down a couple days, 3 days, 5 days, 7 days. And then if I'm in a competitive situation as well, I can reduce my buyer investigation contingency period to like 10 days. And I get everything negotiated as far as repairs and all the investigations, I get them done within 10 days. So we all know if we're going to move forward or not. Your buyer then has 5 days after the delivery of any like new items. Let's say they're disclosures, like they do all the disclosures except for one, they deliver on the 30th day of escrow. Well, that can delay escrow for 5 days because I get 5 days as a buyer to review any such items. So let's say that a pipe bursts in the house. I have 5 days at that point from discovering that pipe burst, even if it's after the contingency periods, to see if that's something that I want to deal with. I get to make a decision on that item that's new information. Your buyer has access to the property for 17 days pursuant to this contract, and you can shorten that. Let's say I do 10 days here, I can do 10 days there. But typically I'm going to leave that at 17 still, so I have access to that property. Notice a buyer seller to perform, we can shorten that amount of time to make sure that, let's say the buyer or the seller does not perform, we can cancel the contract within a day rather than 2 days of waiting and giving them time to figure it out. After that, I want to make sure that, it's paragraph 21 for any for the earnest money deposit, and stating that it's the liquidated damages, and it's going to be up to 3% of that amount, but no more than. You can see that. So if we put too much money in for the earnest money deposit, then we're subjecting them to more liquidated damages than they're obligated to. We want our clients to sign to initial here, as well as for the arbitration and mediation dispute resolution, mainly because otherwise, if we get pulled into court, it's going to be a lot more money than it is already bringing lawyers in to do the mediation. So it's just a money saving thing, as well as it goes through the right methods for us, as opposed to dealing with predatory lawyers. Not that all of them are. Last but not least, we want to go ahead and put in our expiration of offer. If you decide to, at least put your name in. as their agent. So you can say that a copy of the signed offer is personally received by buyer or Josh Jenkins, who's authorized to receive it as their agent. So they already automatically expires on the third day after the offer is signed by the buyer. Or you can make it so it's by tomorrow, or you can extend that for a week. It's totally up to you guys. So that is the gist on how to write an offer. From there, go ahead and check with your coach to see if they have any other notes. But I hope this helps. All right, guys, have a great one.